The 25th day of April every year is set aside by the World Health Organization as World Malaria Day. This year, the theme is Zero Malaria, Draw the Line Against Malaria, a call to action to raise the bar for malaria diagnosis, treatment and control. Although some progress has been made in this area, malaria continues to remain a leading cause of death in Nigeria, even in the face of increased funding and interventions from government.
What is even more worrisome is that despite funding from the government and partners, 44% of household out-of-pocket expenditure is on malaria. Nigeria continues to bear the disproportionate brunt of the malaria toll, accounting for 27% and 23% of global cases and deaths, respectively.
The 2020 World Malaria Report from the World Health Organization reveals that Nigeria alone contributes 27% of global malaria cases and 23% of global malaria-related deaths. Government says it will need 352 billion naira to combat malaria in 2021. Malaria is a parasitic disease which spreads to people through the bites of infected female Anopheles mosquitoes. Experts say apart from scaling up testing and treatment for malaria, there is need to also attack the vector.
The National Malaria Strategic Plan, the vision in that plan is for us to attain a less than 10% parasite prevalence. Today we are 23%, and we want to at least take off not less than 13% out of that 23%.
According to the WHO, malaria accounts for more than 60% of hospital visits in Nigeria, 20% of under-5 mortality, and 11% of maternal mortality. The Oxford University recently discovered a vaccine for malaria with over 70% efficacy. This discovery could just be the game changer if it is certified by the WHO.
Let's get more perspective on this important issue of the malaria scourge and the way forward. We're now being joined live from our Kano studio by the Director, Center for Infectious Diseases Research at the Bayero University, Kano, Professor Isa Sadeeq-Abubakar. Thank you for joining us on the News at 10, Professor.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, let's begin with the good news coming from the Oxford Institute on the development of a malaria vaccine, said to be 77% effective. What's your reaction to this development?
Well, this is a very important development in the effort aimed at eliminating the malaria scourge across the world. And oftentimes people have been saying that the story about COVID-19 is not all about bad news. COVID-19 has stimulated a number of scientists across the world to not only make efforts aimed at discovering a cure as well as a protection against COVID-19, but for other important diseases. And of course for us in Africa or in tropical regions generally in the world, malaria is one very, very important scourge that has been responsible for almost 4 times the deaths of people in this continent than COVID-19 itself. So it is an important step that we have come closer to discovering a vaccine that may solve the problem of malaria to a large extent in our continent. So as a scientist, I'm happy about this development, and I hope that it will be taken further until it becomes the final answer.
Interesting development indeed. But why do you think this has taken so long, or why has it taken this long, rather, to achieve this breakthrough in the research concerning the malaria vaccine?
Yeah, the effort aimed at discovering an effective, safe, and potent malaria vaccine has been there for more than a century. But the difficulty has to do with the protozoan parasites that is responsible for causing malaria. it has over 5,400 genes which are responsible for the infection itself, and any discovery of antibodies that will fight against these genes has to look at as many as possible of these 5,400 genes. Just to give an example with COVID-19, for example, it has about only 12 genes. That is why it is much easier for scientists to discover antibodies that will fight against COVID-19 virus, that's the virus causing its SARS-CoV-2, compared to the protozoan parasite that is responsible for malaria. A lot of efforts have been made trying to discover the protection, but it is taking so long because it is a very difficult thing to do. But then scientists across the different parts of the world have been making effort, and they were going closer and closer to discovering a potent vaccine.
Yes, indeed, I believe so. But of course, you'll agree with me that Nigeria is still a leading country with very high malaria prevalence, as the WHO report says. It's responsible for over 60% of hospital visits in the country. Now, why have we not been able to eliminate the disease like some formerly endemic countries, like, say, Algeria, for instance?
Okay, eliminating malaria will require a lot of effort, not only vaccine development. For example, we need to have a strengthened health system. A lot of investments have to go in. Our governments and all our partners must invest heavily so as to strengthen our health system to make it resilient. We need to up our game with regards to prevention, with regards to diagnosis, and with regards to the treatment of malaria. We need, for example, to make sure that we attract the mosquitoes that are responsible for transmission, and that will be done through indoor residual spraying as well as outdoor spraying of the mosquito itself, and by taking other measures like clearing bushes and stagnant waters around. And apart from that, we need to have a potent diagnostic technique, and the rapid diagnostic technique which we are using is yielding fruits, but it is not yet solving all the problems because it is not picking all the cases that we are dealing with. And then we need to ensure, apart from accurately diagnosing, we need to ensure prompt treatment. We are currently developing resistance against some of the anti-malarial drugs, and it is a continuous fight between us and the parasite for scientists to always discover newer ways to fight this disease at the level of prevention, at the level of diagnosis, as well as at the level of treatment. And to ensure that this is achieved, our governments need to invest heavily, much more than it is doing right now.
All right, so Professor Sadeeq-Abubakar, Director, Center for Infectious Diseases Research at the Bayero University, Kano. We thank you so much for your thoughts on the News at 10.
Thank you very much.